as a remarkable comeback story with the random kidding reference to that ironical word minority. But when Steny Hoyer and Jack Murtha both stood for the House majority leadership today, that was characterized in the media as Democratic infighting, with frequent implications that the Dems were already coming apart at the seams. Our fifth story on the countdown: damned liberal media bias. Is there actually going to be any kind of lasting rift within the new majority? And why did it choose the inside the beltway figure of Hoyer over the poster boy of protest, Murtha? We begin with the details. Mr. Hoyer of Maryland defeating Mr. Murtha, the decorated Vietnam vet from Pennsylvania, by a score of 149 to 86. The backroom politicking leading up to today's vote, including Speaker presumptive Nancy Pelosi's endorsement of Murtha, widely described as Democratic infighting. As a result, largely lost in today's coverage, that in selecting Pelosi today, the Democrats have elected the nation's first female Speaker of the House, and that as a reward for having taken a stand against the war in Iraq before taking such a stand was the cool thing to do. Mr. Murtha will chair the powerful defense subcommittee charged with setting the budget for the war in Iraq.
I want to acknowledge the magnificent contribution of Mr. Murtha to this debate on the war in Iraq. I thank him for his courage in stepping forward 1 year ago to speak truth to power, to change the debate in this country in a way that I think gave us this majority in this November.
My pledge to my caucus and my pledge to the country is that I will work as hard as I can, exercise as much talent as I have, to ensure that the agenda that has been put before the American people, an agenda which is going to reach across to the President of the United States and say, Mr. President, we need to make a transition in Iraq.
I know you'd like to know why I didn't win. I didn't have enough votes. I said inside that I work passionately all over the country trying to change the direction of the country, and I think I played a big role in that. I'll continue to do that. Nancy asked me to set a policy for the Democratic Party. Most of the Democrats signed on to it, and I think the Bush administration is beginning to get the word.
Let's turn to our own correspondent in Washington, David Schuster. David, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Do the Democrats view this as some great internal rift that's going to last forever, or is there more story than fact here?
I'd say the latter. I mean, we can't find a single Democrat tonight who says that there's any lasting impact. They are saying that, yes, there were some strong-arm tactics, perhaps even a little bit of backstabbing, but the damage does not appear to be permanent at all. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is being given a lot of credit for taking a risk, for showing loyalty to John Murtha. Murtha got what he wanted. He had never run for leadership before, but he wanted to run, and he got Nancy Pelosi's support. And then you look at Steny Hoyer. Throughout all of this, Hoyer was telling colleagues he understood why Nancy Pelosi was doing this. He didn't have a problem with it because he felt he had the votes. And again, tonight, Hoyer is the one who's telling everybody there should be no lasting impact. This is over. We move forward.
Why did the Democrats choose Hoyer over Murtha? Was there possibly a concern that, should it have been Mr. Murtha on the winning side, that the media might have been relentless in re-examining alleged ethics violations from his past?
No, not at all, especially when you consider that Hoyer has his own ties to lobbyists. In the end, because Steny Hoyer had gone through the leadership ranks, he had a lot of chips that he had accumulated. He had worked for the freshmen. A lot of people owed him favors, whereas Jack Murtha simply wanted to run on the issue of Iraq. And in the end, a lot of Democrats said tonight they felt that even though Jack Murtha might have a slight advantage in negotiating with the White House over Iraq than Steny Hoyer, the advantage was not so significant that it was worth pushing aside all of the favors that Steny Hoyer had built up, and the fact that Steny Hoyer is much more in line with most Democrats when it comes to fiscal policy and social issues. And so in the end, it was just a feeling of, we know Steny Hoyer as a leader. We've worked with him before as a leader. Jack Murtha is something of an unknown quantity in this position. We're still going to keep Jack Murtha as the voice of Iraq, but he's just not going to have this position.
And the assessment within the Democratic Party is Congressman Murtha really being shortchanged regarding his contributions to the Democrats' victory? I mean, it could be argued that as Defense Appropriations Subcommittee chairman, he'll actually have more influence about what happens next in Iraq than he would have been as majority leader.
Yeah, he's not being shortchanged at all. I mean, first and foremost, he was able to run. He got the green light to run from Nancy Pelosi. He is now extremely loyal to Nancy Pelosi, if there was any doubt. The Democrats have agreed that Jack Murtha should continue to be their leading voice as far as pressuring the Bush administration to get out of Iraq. And furthermore, Steny Hoyer has been praising Jack Murtha, and their relationship already appears to have been fixed. Yes, this was not a great day for Nancy Pelosi to lose one, but everyone says that if you look at this in the big picture, Jack Murtha will continue to speak out on Iraq and be a leading voice. Steny Hoyer has the loyalty of his supporters, and Nancy Pelosi is now seen as somebody who was willing to take a risk and willing to put the focus on getting out of Iraq.
Yeah, and clearly it was not her first choice, but on the other hand, she gets maybe something close to the best of all possible worlds for herself here. I mean, she thanks Mr. Murtha for making the victory possible at the elections. The caucus gets what it wants. She does not seem to be iron-handed. This might work out as a total plus in the end for the Democrats?
Yeah, when you ask Democrats about the big picture, they believe that in the big picture this is just a blip, that this is not going to be such a big defeat for Nancy Pelosi, even though any time a speaker goes in and loses one, obviously that's something of an embarrassment. But in the big picture, she has pleased John Murtha with her support for him. Murtha is pleased because he was able to get his election out there. Steny Hoyer was pleased because he felt that even though there were some strong-arm tactics, he understood that Nancy Pelosi was showing loyalty. Hoyer still won. He's telling everybody, don't worry about this. And so in a way, in the end, I mean, all the Democrats are walking away from this united. They're moving forward. And a lot of them feel that this has been certainly overplayed by many people who have been covering this.
MSNBC's David Schuster in Washington. David, as always, great thanks.
Thanks, Keith.
Not that all the stories of intra-party bickering are the exaggerative spin from the losers' talking points. There is finger